I think Mothra deserves better. Okay, look, this was going to be a completely different video. See, I was originally going to talk about Mothra's ties with anti-capitalism, but doing a little research I came across this awesome article written by Chris McDonald from the Gargantuan Cast. I highly recommend you give it a read, however, there's only one tiny little problem with the article. It pretty much says everything I would have said. So, I decided to spin this video into something that has also been on my mind. Mothra is not getting the love she deserves from Toho in recent years. Obviously, she's getting plenty of love from the fans, sometimes a little too much love. I'm sure I'm not the only one thinking this, but I also don't see it being discussed online. The goal for this video is to go over as to why Mothra deserves better, and how her recent appearances have not done the queen true justice, even the iterations that I love. Before I get into that though, we have to go back to where it all began. I know what I said about Chris McDonald's article earlier, but I still think it's important to discuss. Besides, it's my video and I can do what I want. This won't be a review of the movie because I actually already reviewed it in my podcast, which you can check out in the description down below. Yes, this is a shameless plug. The aspect that I want to explore is how the story revolves around capitalism as a central theme. First, we have to go all the way back to the 50s to properly begin this discussion. Godzilla in 1954 represented the fears many people in Japan had about nuclear technology and radiation. While the film was definitely inspired by the tragic atomic bombings in World War II, the real inciting incident that inspired the film was the Lucky Dragon No. 5. The Lucky Dragon was a fishing boat that was hit with an unhealthy dose of radiation from the Castle Bravo thermonuclear test when the boat unknowingly sailed too close. One of the fishermen sadly lost their lives due to radiation sickness, but the concern for most at the time was the contaminated fish getting into the market. It's important to understand this as Godzilla was made during a difficult period in time for Japan, still recovering from the impacts World War II had left on it. Compare that to the 60s where Japan's economy was growing at a rapid rate. Business was booming and people were becoming more optimistic about the future. However, I believe director Shiro had his own concerns about this industrial growth when he was tasked to direct the film adaptation of The Luminous Fairies and Mothra. In the film, Mothra is not the villain. Rather, it's a greedy Rolisican entrepreneur named Clark Nelson. The country he's from is a made-up fusion between Russia and the States, as the original novel touched more on the Cold War politics. While politics are still an important factor, the focus is more on how Nelson is exploiting the Shobijin, the Twin Fairies, for his own monetary wealth. Mothra meanwhile serves as the unstoppable consequences to Nelson's greed. This is different to Godzilla as, while he represented the consequences of humanity's hubris, he was still ultimately the movie's antagonist and was to be stopped by the human protagonist. Even though Mothra ends up unintentionally killing people on her way to save the Shobijin, it's interesting to note that she mainly destroys symbols of capitalism like cruise liners, the Tokyo Tower, and Newkirk City, which is the New York City stand-in. The film feels also relevant to today's corporate capitalist society where countless people suffer all because of the actions taken by the 1% for the sake of profits. When I was watching Mill Creek's Blu-ray release of the film, there's a scene where the protagonists try to reason with Nelson to release the Shobijin, and Nelson's response was, "They're not people, they're merchandise." That might not be one-to-one as I'm too lazy to dig out the Blu-ray just to find this one scene, but that's basically the gist of what he says. That line really resonated with me as someone who lives in a time where companies only view us as numbers and data. I know this chapter has gone a bit real and political, but Honda's kaiju films tend to make you do that. The point is, Mothra in this film serves as divine retribution against the rich minority. I'm not going to go over every iteration of Mothra since the original. This video would be way too long and repetitive if I did that. What I really want to focus on is her appearances in major Godzilla media in the past 5-ish years. That does mean I'm not going to cover any of her comic appearances, as there's actually a pretty sizable amount of comics that I simply haven't read yet, and trying to read them all for this video would be a tad bit overwhelming, along with trying to watch all the web videos of Gojiban and all the stuff that Toho's been doing with the merchandise. And anyways, that really only leaves us with 3 appearances to talk about. First one up is the anime trilogy.
No, God!
I want to.
No, God, please, no! No!
Connect life.
No! No!
I'm not going to discuss my thoughts on the anime trilogy as a whole. We're here for Mothra after all. So, how does Mothra appear in the trilogy? That's it? Even though Mothra has an entire race of people worshipping her that appear in the movies, with at least 2 of them serving as key players in the last 2 movies, and Mothra herself had a ton of build-up and all we get is a silhouette? I honestly expected less from the trilogy by that point. To be fair to the trilogy, she was worshipped as a deity like I just mentioned. The trilogy does show its respect to the source material. Still not an excuse for poor execution of a Godzilla. Okay. I need to talk about something positive after that. What's next? My queen. For real though, I absolutely love Mothra in King of the Monsters. Her design is pretty sick, allowing her to be versatile in combat and surprisingly emotive. She also plays a significant part in the story as a supporting character. She goes against both Ghidorah and Rodan, even going as far as beating the latter. Another role she plays is aiding humanity in finding Godzilla after he was critically injured by the oxygen destroyer. She is the only recent entry we get to see in both her larval and adult forms. We also find out early on in the movie that she was worshipped as a god in ancient times. Finally, this is the only recent entry that plays the iconic Mothra song. Alright, let's not get carried away unless the goal is for me to get a copyright strike. I would go on and on about this badass interpretation, but it's time to move on to her most recent appearance in Godzilla Singular Point. Now, Godzilla Singular Point is a bit interesting as it brings back old kaiju as well as reuse aspects from past Toho kaiju for new forms, or just completely different kaiju. One of the kaiju that returns is Mothra, and it's basically a cameo. This is also the Mothra entry we have very little knowledge about, as there's quite a bit of a mystery surrounding this entry. What we know is that it's not just one creature, but a species. They're about the size of regular moths, and they were used as foreshadowing for the climax. While this appearance is by no means disrespectful, it's kind of a shame that was the role Mothra was regulated to. If Singular Point gets a second season, I wonder if they'll flesh out Mothra more, or just not even bring them back. Oh, and also she appears in the fantastic end credit sequence with everyone else. And that has been all of her major recent appearances, which leads me to this conclusion. You know, it's kinda sad when the American version has been the best version of Mothra we got in recent years. Seriously, what happened here? Of course, I didn't expect her to appear in Shin Godzilla, but when it comes to the 2 major Japanese projects she's been a part of, she's basically the Stan Lee cameo. I will be fair and say that in general there hasn't been that much output, at least compared to previous series, of major Godzilla media from Japan. And while I have sung the praises of King of the Monsters, Mothra was still only a supporting character in a movie that was mostly focused on Godzilla and Ghidorah. Not to mention, there wasn't anything harking back to her anti-capitalist history, instead deciding to only focus on her mystical properties. It's not like the anti-capitalist themes were just in the original. It has been a factor in several movies she appeared in. Also, she's not a minor character like Varan. Absolutely no shade to Varan. He's awesome. He's just not a major Toho player, and I can see why he doesn't make more appearances, sadly. Mothra though is one of Toho's big five, and so far she's been done the dirtiest compared to the others. I say this only because she's the only one in recent years that hasn't played anything more than a supporting character. The only other one I could see an argument for is Rodan, but at the same time the Rodan had a massive role in Godzilla's Singular Point. It's a shame that Mothra hasn't been given a bigger role, especially for a character that's been the only one to spun off into their own trilogy after they were considered to be a part of the Godzilla franchise. She's been in more movies than the vast majority of other kaiju, only being beaten by Godzilla himself. Heck, Godzilla vs. Mothra, yes, that one, was the most financially successful Godzilla movie in the Heisei series. And let's be honest, it wasn't because it was the best movie in the era. Mothra has proven, at least according to Japanese box office, her name alone brings people into theaters. To see her being regulated to cameo appearances and basically becoming Godzilla's support is sort of a blow to the character's legacy. While it would be cool if she were to have a bigger role in a future Godzilla movie, I honestly believe she deserves to have another outing on her own. If Legendary still has the rights to use Mothra, and the Monsterverse can get away from the clutches of Warner Bros. Discovery, why not give the character her own movie? Mothra has already proven to be a popular character from the Monsterverse. Plus, it would be a fantastic way for the Monsterverse to grow, as well as having it be a way to not heavily rely on Godzilla and Kong to carry the Monsterverse. They could go back and explore the twin connection established in King of the Monsters, and even bring back elements from the scrap post-credits scene. Over in Japan, I can think of a few things I would love to see. While Godzilla keeps dipping his toes in the anime medium, the medium is also perfect for Mothra. Either as a movie or, even better, a series. An anime series that explores the lore of Mothra and the Twin Fairies, or is just them going on adventures with human protagonists, would be so cool. If Toho can get the right studio to work on it, the possibilities are almost limitless. I've also heard Shusuke Kaneko has shown interest in returning to direct another Gamera movie, but I think it would be amazing if he were to direct a live-action Mothra movie, especially since he's been influenced by Ishiro Honda as a director. An example of this is when he used a scene from the original Mothra as inspiration for another scene in Gamera Guardian of the Universe. The last possibility I'm going to discuss that I would absolutely love to see is Shin Mothra. Could you imagine what Shinji Iguchi and Hideaki Anno could do if they got their hands on Mothra? The design of Mothra alone would be amazing to see. I also imagine this would be a completely solo outing, as the common theme for the Shin series so far has been staying true to the original while updating it for modern times. We could see more aspects from the book, like having more than two fairies be shown in the movie. Mothra's story also perfectly caters to Anno's style of political satire, especially given the political discourse from the original. I also think Shin Mothra would be the perfect vehicle to go back to Mothra's anti-capitalist themes, especially in today's corporate-controlled environment. At this point though, I'm willing to take anything as long as it treats the character and her legacy with respect. Toho, if you're somehow watching this, please don't strike down this video. And also, I really hope you can take anything that I've said into consideration. Mothra is a beloved IP, that is almost as old as the Big G's, and there's still more that can be done with the character. Anyways, I still am hopeful to see what the future will hold for Mothra, whatever form that might take.
Couldn't you even be one moronic tin can robot from Earth?
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. Next week's video is going to be a bit different as I'm going to be talking about one of my own projects. And I really hope you're there to watch that. Also, if you liked the video, press the like button. That would be amazing, especially if you love Mothra. If you love Mothra, you have to like this video. Dislike it if you think Mothra doesn't deserve to be in any other future media, and Mothra should just be dead in the water as a property. And so I hope you don't press dislike. Leave a comment telling me what I'm doing right or what I'm doing wrong, and if you like this video, check out my previous videos. And I got plenty more content coming on the way, and make sure you subscribe, hit the bell notification, all that lovely YouTube stuff to help me overcome this thing called the algorithm. And as always, I hope you have an awesome day. Take care and shoo-watch!